Here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Jason Peter, former Husker great.
One of the things that I was kind of talking to you about in a hurry was getting a vibe for like the cohesiveness, like what the kind of run that this team is on, man.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that it is what it is, or you think this is something that you could replicate in this day of NIL and college football, the way that this team is kind of got that next man up thing?
Yeah, it's impressive to watch. It really is. And then when you kind of get around the team as well, and you're meeting the kids and you know all the players at the team hotel and stuff, you start to see, okay, these kids, like they kind of, you know, they're probably I'd say like better kids than we were. You know, like they're good, but like they're not that we had bad kids. I think for the most part we had good kids as well. But it's really like Marcus Freeman has made it a point to make sure this is going to be the best team, you know, that I think I can build. And, you know, the culture word gets talked about a lot out in South Bend. And even with talking to the kids and trying to get a feel for, you know, the way that they think and everything, like, I think he's recruiting, like, pretty good kids, you know, like winners. And winners. Like, that's the thing I think that he's looking for the most when going out to recruit. Like, you can be an all-star dude, but if you're coming from some, you know, 2-10 team that, you know, the team's fighting at you know, in between timeouts and all this stuff, like, that's just not going to fly. Like, he wants winners down there. And I think that's kind of, you know, that's what T.O. looked for when he was, you know, when he was coaching the teams that we were part of. Like, you think of a lot of guys that came into the program, and, you know, that was the only thing that was important to us, was winning and winning championships. And it was the right group of guys that came together at the right time, and that's what happened. But I mean, are they going to have enough, you know, against the Buckeyes? I don't know. We'll see. You know, I mean, certainly on paper, they're probably going to be a little, you know, they'll be the underdog there. But, you know, on any given night, I mean, nobody thought they were going to beat Georgia, right? Nobody thought they were going to beat Penn State. I mean, who knows? Maybe this is just a team of destiny, you know, that they're just bound to win an out of here.
Jason,
but it's impressive, DB. It was.
Yeah.
Jason, does it give you, I guess, any hope for the future of college football? You know, we hear all about NIL and transfer portal and things like that. And obviously you look at Ohio State and how that team was put together. Does it give you any hope that a team like Notre Dame can get to where it did at this point in the season, that those things that you talked about, guys that are winners, guys that are character guys, and kind of that team culture, that still can matter just as much as all the other stuff?
I do. I think I don't know how many of those teams that you're going to get right now. Yeah. I think at some point the pendulum will swing, right? Like everything, it's all cyclical, right? Like at some point all the speed, you know, in football lies on the defensive side, and then 5-10 years later it's on the wide receiver side, and you know it just keeps going, right? It just keeps spinning, and I'm guessing, you know, like this is going to be the run here for a while is going to be guys trying to get as much money as they possibly can. But I think at some point you're going to realize, like, okay, well, you can do that, but you might be playing on a loser, you know, for most of your career. And, you know, they may, hopefully kids will start to see, like, hey, you know, we can all get paid a whole lot more if we're actually a good football team. You know, and especially like at a place like Nebraska, where there's such a following and such fan support. I mean, that's, you know, whenever I'm down there around the guys, you know, at the university, and I just keep trying to tell them, like, you guys, you know, I know you see like the attention you get right now. I said, but wait, if you guys actually commit to this thing and you win. You have no idea what's lying ahead of you. You know what I mean, DB?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
They have no idea what's lying ahead of them. And if they could just get a taste of that, I think it would start to change things for sure, at least around here. I think Coach Rhule has done a good job of trying to find the right guys that he thinks is going to be, good fit guys here. So we'll see.
You talk about things that are cyclical. It seems like lighter, quicker is back in vogue, right? Especially along D lines, right? I'm looking at I'm looking at how these guys play and some of the schemes and being able to play with like two eyes, and it's different. Yeah. Would you rather be playing now or when you were playing, given you were a lighter, quicker, more explosive guy? Or how do you what's ideal? I want to start on the front, and if I'm recruiting, how am I trying to play along the D line in 2025?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you watch these things, and obviously you watch, just locally here in Nebraska, and you really saw it, I guess, a lot even when Pelini was here and he had Ndamukong, and the constantly he's up, he's down, he's over the 3, he's over the nose, he's out on a 5. There's so much now of just trying to confuse the offense and moving guys around and doing all that stuff. I had this conversation with a couple of the Notre Dame guys, because it was funny. Like, DJ, obviously, whenever we're walking around and he'd see, a new player, he'd want to introduce me, and he'd say, yeah, Jason played at Nebraska. And the eyes would just kind of stay the same. And he goes, yeah, he won 3 national titles. It was an All-American, 14th pick or whatever. And the kid's eyes then all of a sudden would get big. They don't remember. They weren't even born, obviously, when we were winning those championships. But it's funny how you see them kind of, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of this Nebraska. They've written and done shows about that Nebraska, and it's. Yeah, so it was neat, but when looking at where I'd want to play, and I was talking to one of the Notre Dame kids, and because he was going through a similar thing as to, he first started off where he was an edge guy, and now he's gained weight, and now he's kind of, he's inside. Now I didn't start on the edge; mine was the opposite. But for me, being in the interior, where it's just a very reactionary thing. Like, you can almost play the position if you really have it down to a science. You can almost play blindfolded, because it's like a feel thing, right? Like, where you're lined up. You're in a 2 technique or a 3 technique, but things happen so fast down there that you're just reacting. Like, okay, down block's coming. Okay, I got to know where I feel the offensive tackle's head in front of my head, or kind of behind my hip or whatever. Like, that's going to just dictate if I'm playing behind the block or if I'm going to play in front, if I'm flipping my hip, or am I just kind of leaning and ripping, and when you get outside and you're playing, there's just so much more time, right? Like, there's just, before you engage, like when you're in that, that wide 5 or whatever, or wide 9, like, it's just like, it's almost like a second before you have contact, with the offense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do in all this time, but it's different. So I kind of, I prefer where it's happening fast. So, that was the thing that was hard for me to get used to a little bit. Actually, the adjustment was all right. It was just, when I did it in the NFL, I mean, I went from inside to outside, and I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, but I think I would love to be somewhere from like a 3 technique, 4 eye, and all the way just down to like a 0.
That's funny, because you say 4 eye. I mean, that's got to be in my opinion, unless you're a Jason Peter or a Justin Smith or somebody like. That's the toughest number, in my opinion, to play in along the D line is in a 4.
No, I hate 4 eyes. But
I was just surprised to hear you say it.
Like, yeah, I hate it. I think you are automatically like you're giving up this leverage, right, to this
massive tackle.
You know, you're kind of lined up inside. He's got an easy path right down on you. You know, the way that we always did it at Nebraska was you had your interior hand down, right, in your stance. So we're from the right side of the ball. We got our left hand down, and we're stepping with our left foot. And you know, if we're on the left side of the football, then we got right hand down, and we're stepping first with our right foot. Well, when you're in a 4-eye, right, and so you're already stepping inside, right, somewhat, like a 45-degree angle. So it makes that really tough, and, you know, you're so close to the offensive tackle. If the guard tries pulling out of there or something, you're just really stuck on that 4-eye. Now, we didn't play a ton of it, so we probably didn't practice it as much as, you know, maybe they do now.
Yeah.
But that was always the technique that I was not crazy about, was the 4 eyes. Now, if you're going, you know, like if you got some sort of 4-eye and you're able to hit it inside and just kind of, you know, hopefully that guard, you know, is pulling across the ball or something like that, you can make some plays pretty good there. But yeah, that as far as the techniques that we played, I was never crazy, and we didn't play a ton of it here at Nebraska. When I got to the NFL, playing the kind of that tapers 3-4, you know, there was a lot of 4-eye.
We're talking with Jason Peter, former Husker, and as he mentioned, 3-time national champion. Can't leave that out. Jason, I wonder this a lot with, you know, guys that I talk to other than my co-host DB here, that, you know, you hear sometimes with Nebraska fans that they don't feel like Nebraska can ever return to a level where they compete for national titles. And as you kind of watch, I know that you still pay attention to the program, but maybe aren't as in the day-to-day as like DB is, for instance. When you look at this team, whether it's under Coach Rhule or just the program in general, is there anything about it that you think like, yeah, I don't know if they can do what Notre Dame is doing, or I don't know if they can do what Michigan did last year?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't see any reason why Nebraska would not be able to be successful. You know, let's call it what it is too. I mean, you see in it this year, especially, it's starting to show itself. Actually, the last 2 years, now that everybody can pay their players, right? Like, it's not just the SEC giving out, you know, bags of McDonald's bags full of cash and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, wow, you know, you're starting to see like SEC is they're just like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, but shoot, when you're the only conference that's paying, you know, the kids, majority, you know, I mean, I think when you look at the majority of it, that's how it had been for so long. You know, you hear these stories like Mark Ingram and Faith, or, you know, the Johnny Manziel and all this, you know, and obviously those are some of the elite players, but I'm pretty sure that the majority of those guys were getting something, you know, down there for all those years that SEC was winning championships. And now it's, you know, the playing field's kind of leveled. Obviously, it's the two big power conferences with the Big Ten and the SEC, but yeah, you know, I absolutely think that Nebraska, I mean, why not? You got great facilities. I think part of the issue is you've got to do a really good job of creating that dog in the player, right? Like the one that he just wants to win, right? Because he shows up here on campus and, you know, DB, like, I know the game, like, there are elements of especially around the game and all the things that happen, you know, obviously with NIL now and all this and transfer stuff, but like, you got to make sure that you're finding kids, number one, that are not going to be, and this is partly looking at the parents, you know, that they're not going to be chasing, you know, every extra $50,000. Like, if you got to worry about this kid constantly leaving after every year because, you know, his buddy or his dad or whoever, you know, found another school that was willing to give him a little bit more money, like, in the end, like, and I would tell these guys this all the time. Like, I'd tell Ty Robinson, I'd tell Nash, I'd be like, we are not chasing this money. This is not the money that we are after. obviously it's great to get some, right? It's great to have a little security in your back pocket, but the money that we are chasing, that comes from those three letters, NFL, right? That's what we're going after, right? And think about every time you change or you leave schools, right? Like, you got to learn a whole new offense, a whole new defense. You got to learn, you got to meet new players. You got to know, how does this new staff work? What are the things that they do that are different than, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that goes into it. Like, why would you not just be comfortable at the place where you are if the money's all somewhat, similar? I understand some guys that, they're getting paid, $1 million to go out and play for 1 year at a school. And there's part of me that understands that, but a lot of these is not. It's just trying to see who's going to give me a little bit more money than where I'm at right now, and that's the thing. You got to make sure. I think that you're looking for good kids and kids that it's important, to them that they want to win. Winning is. We've all heard the saying, winning's not the only thing, or whatever it is. Winning's not the most important thing, it's the only thing, something.
Yeah.
But, that's the truth. And I think here at Nebraska, you also, you fight this thing where the kids show up and they're already stars before they've done anything, right? Like, everybody knows who they are. Everybody's following them on their accounts and, all this stuff. And, like, you have to get back to something that resembles, you got to earn everything that you get, right? Like, you have to earn it. And if it's just given to you, it doesn't mean anything, right? Like, how much are you willing to fight for it? Like, whether it's a position, whether it's where your team's doing, in week 6 or week 7, like, you got to create, there's got to be dogs in that room. And, it can't just be guys that think that they're little mini NFL players, and they're this and they're that, and I won't do that, or I won't do this, and hey, what? Just look at it like you're in a glorified high school, right? And you're just lucky enough to come during a time of college football where you're getting paid a good amount of money to do it. Like, at some point they're gonna have to reel it in, right? Like, this is not sustainable for them to be paying guys $10.5 million, right? And then possibly get no return out of it, right? Like how many programs have guys like that are just willing to give that kind of money year after year after year after year? And I'm not really sure what exactly they're getting back in return.
I know you like the kind of the leadership and that dog mentality to be closer to the ball, right? Usually the closer to the ball it is, the more it permeates your team. But man, do you think it seems like defense, especially defensively with the offensive rules and RPOs and letting linemen get downfield and stuff? I saw Notre Dame do it. I saw Texas slow down, Ohio State with it. Like, disguising and being multiple is like a thing that I think we undersell. Where do you come out with, like, know-how and being coached versus, like, just overall talent?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you got to know, excuse me, which way is up, in terms of the stuff that you're running out there. And, hold on. DB, ask me that question again.
So, just the complexity of being able to do multiple things, like on the back half, to slow some of this offensive game down.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't you think that, it's similar as to, like, running the option? You know how we created, or Coach Osborne did, and, like these other teams that we were playing, there was just so much more information that you had to be an expert at, pretty much. Like, you had to know everything was so responsibility driven.
Yeah.
Like, there's an element, like, and I think I kind of, when I was helping Scott down there, and I would see, like, the work, with the defensive linemen, and I was always someone who just believed if you have great technique, right? Like, if you play, it doesn't matter whether you're in a 3 or a 2 or a shade or a 1 or whatever. if you play with great technique, you can find your way to the football, right? Like what they're doing against you. And now I know there's some misdirection stuff, the fake pull, and sometimes you're just not going to make a play. But I think for the most part, if you focus and you really try to improve your technique, you'll always have a chance. Like no matter what the offense is running, no matter what the offensive line is doing up front, most of the time, whatever they're doing, if you're just playing great technique, you will find your way to the football. I don't think like sometimes now I think we look for cheat codes, right? Like this is going to be the quickest way to the ball, and I know now, offset back this way, well, the chances of them running it back across the ball are going to be, this percentage or that percentage, and it seems like it is a lot of percentages now. But there is, and I get it. That's, I guess, how the game maybe is evolving is, they start to develop these cheat codes. But I don't know. I think at some point, if you're relying on that, it's going to bite you in the ass at some point, too. But I just think, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the man,
Yeah.
Jason Peter. Jason, we appreciate the time. You'll have to come hang out with us this fall. Maybe we'll hang out on the radio show a little bit.
Yeah. Anytime.
Absolutely.
Any free time, man. We got you.
Anytime. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Appreciate it.